Yeah, no, I enjoyed every bit of that, start to finish. Um, oh no, I definitely can say it's worth $70. I mean, I paid for the special edition, so it was more like 110 euro. There is enough content in there to justify $70. You know, and the polish for the mechanics, for the fuse mechanics, for the auto build, for the Ultra Hand stuff, you know, they really took everything people were doing in Breath of the Wild, you know, and glitching those sort of mechanics together, and polished it off and made sure everything worked, delayed the game for a year to make sure everything worked. Didn't just try and patch it later, like other companies would do. You know, I've played a couple of games, like a lot of PS5 games have just gone, they went to $70 or €70 once the PS5 came out, and there's been a few games I've played so far and I'm like, nah, this should have been 50. You know? But you know, devs gotta get paid. I appreciate that. Some should have been $39.99 tops, right? Like, I've put 150 hours into the game and I'm not done. Like, 150 hours. Like, what is that, like 45 cents an hour? I've paid them to play this game? PS4 is last gen, PS5 is current gen. And I'm still not done. I still have all of the depths to go through. I still have all the costumes, all this other side quests. There's a rake of side quests I just haven't finished yet. You know, I could easily pour another 50 hours into this game just doing everything there is to do, and that's kind of incredible. You know, even so yeah, no, like, would I have been mad if it was a €60 game? No, of course not. Right? Because it means the collector's edition would have been 100 rather than 110. But can I look at Breath of the Wild, which was 60? And actually, hold on, I gotta touch on that, because over here, at the very least, GameStop, rest in peace, we're already charging $70 or €70 for Switch games. They were already charging $75.80 for PlayStation games. Like, those price changes came over here years ago. We've kind of gotten used to it because there is no yeah, they do, they die tomorrow, you know, inanimanaher rugs and vicogs and spirit nave, amen. Like, those price changes, there is no MSRP over here. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist over here. MSRP is a myth. So even the stores that were cheaper than GameStop were only cheaper by like $5, 10 at most. But can I look at Breath of the Wild as a €60 or a $60 game and go, yeah, that's worth it? And then look at all the improvements to the physics engine that Tears of the Kingdom brought in, and the 3 tiers of map, and just how much more refined and polished, even graphically, it feels, and go, that's worth an extra tenner? Yeah, that's not a tough thing to do. That's not a tough thing to do. Looking at Breath of the Wild as a $60 game and then all of the improvements Tears made justifies that extra tenner. For me, anyway. For me. Everyone's different. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, but I think it's justified. You know, and I had such a good time with it. You know, and I think, you know, I feel like game prices should have gone up years ago. I don't like spending more money, and I don't think the publishers or the developers should be putting, you know, $50 bajillion into a game that's going to take 8 years to make now, because that's what we're starting to see. These games are, you know, being announced in, you know, 2019, and then they're not coming out till 2025, but you know, I kind of wish the industry was different, but the price changes that we're starting to see now going into the, you know, the Switch 2 or the Super Switch or whatever, like Tears of the Kingdom is the first one to do this, right? And I think, again, it's justified looking at Breath of the Wild and looking at the changes. But when we move on to the next Nintendo console, they're going to do what Sony are doing. They're going to do what Microsoft are doing. The costs are going to go up, and that's going to be reflected. These companies aren't our friends. They're not here to make us, you know, they're here to provide us with services. They're not our friends. They're not here to make our wallets feel better. You know, devs need to be paid. Profits have to be made, and businesses are going to business to achieve that. So these price changes probably should have happened sooner, so that the, you know, when we moved from 50 to 60, everyone panicked as well. Oh, this is the death of video games. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And they did. People moved on. And as we get in further, or to what's left of the PS5 and Xbox Series generation, and we move on to beyond that, 70 will probably be the new standard for a decade, and then we'll move on to 80, 90, 100. Is it right? Probably not. Is it going to go that way regardless? Are people going to pay? They are. And if you can't justify paying nearly 100 on one game, I totally get that. That's what sales are for. You know, and I'm not saying, again, I don't want to be preachy, and I'm not attacking anyone, and I'm not trying to be a bitch about this. But in this bubble, the price of everything is, yeah, and games are no different. Energy costs, food costs, everything is going up. Games will be no different. I just think there's a bit of a culture shock because we had $60 for, or 60 euros or whatever for like forever, right? I remember when games went from 50 to 60. And I remember the culture shock around that, and I think we just didn't expect it to happen again, even though we probably should have, because businesses. But in this bubble, in this Tears of the Kingdom bubble, I think it's justified. I can look at Breath of the Wild, I can look at how much of a full experience that is, and the 300 hours or so I've put into Breath of the Wild. And I can look at everything that Tears of the Kingdom did better and go, yeah, that price bump, justified. And if you're going to provide a quality product like that, and you're not going to provide a live service that gets switched off in 6 months because nobody's playing, then sure. It's not riddled with microtransactions, although watch that be the next thing the companies do. The games prices will go up and they'll still nickel and dime, you know, horse armor and shit. Again, it's not that's not justified, but because, well, I don't want to keep saying business, 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 but businesses are greedy and they're not our friends. But in a vacuum, in a bubble, I can look at the difference between Breath and Tears and go, yeah, the price bump was worth it. And I think that's just the best place to leave that, because it is 6 in the morning. I don't have the brain for the demographic discussion that comes with all of this, and the business, the etiquette and the morality. I don't have the brain for that at this hour. What I do have the brain for is dragons fighting under a blood moon was the best thing I've played all year. Like, I don't think any game is going to beat this. Mortal Kombat 1 is going to come out in a couple of months. That is going to be $80, $70, $80, $90 on a collector's edition. You know, with your season pass and your extra characters and your this and your that. Street Fighter is probably the same. Spider-Man is going to be the same. You know, and all of these games will be graphically superior to Tears of the Kingdom, no doubt about it. But will they be as content rich? That's up for debate right now. I guess we'll see. I mean, Street Fighter V probably is at this stage. God, that got so many updates. Between costumes and characters and the Street Fighter thing of Champion Edition and Super Turbo Champion Edition and all that bollocks. But a lot of these high-profile games, I mean, is anyone really chomping at the bit for Starfield based on what we've seen and all the kerfuffle around the frame rate and shit? Like, I want the game to do well, because, you know, when one company does well, everyone does well, because that's how competition works and that's how people get better at what they do. So, yeah, I want that to be good, you know? It's a shame Redfall died in a ditch, along with Forspoken, but, you know, was Forspoken worth $70? Probably not. You know what I mean? But again, it's like 6 in the morning. I don't really have the brain to go into the acumen and morality end of things. I just want to focus on the fun. I just want to focus